Imagine a child living in a small village, without electricity, without running water, but with a steadfast belief that they can change the world. This is the story of Nelson Mandela, a man who not only transformed South Africa, but also made a profound impact on humanity. Today we embark on his inspiring journey, a journey that teaches us about resilience, courage, and ignites within us the belief in achieving great things, no matter how insurmountable the obstacles may seem. Let's begin the journey of Nelson Mandela, a man who turned his dreams into reality and in doing so, changed the world. As you listen to this story, you'll not only improve your English vocabulary, pronunciation, and listening skills, but also be inspired to dream big and persevere no matter the challenges life throws at you. Get ready for the most powerful and motivational story you've ever heard. Let's embark on the journey of Nelson Mandela, a man who changed the world. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the quiet village of Mveso in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. His birth name was Rolihlahla Mandela, which in the Xhosa language means pulling the branch of a tree, though some also say it means troublemaker, a name that would later reflect his courage in challenging injustice. Mandela was born into the Thembu royal family, a tribe known for its rich history and culture. His father, Gadla Henry Mfakanyiswa, was a respected chief and advisor to the Tambo king. While Mandela's family wasn't wealthy, they were deeply respected within their community. His mother, Nosekeni Fanny, was a devout Christian who instilled in him the values of kindness, humility, and faith. Although Mandela's childhood was simple, it was full of joy. He lived in a humble mud and straw hut, surrounded by vast open fields and rolling hills. There was no electricity, running water, or modern comforts, but Mandela felt a sense of freedom and happiness. As a young boy, he loved running barefoot, in the fields, herding cattle, and swimming in the streams. He played traditional Xhosa games with his friends and listened to elders tell stories around the fire at night. These stories, often about brave warriors and leaders, ignited a spark in young Mandela's heart. One day, his father shared a profound lesson. A real leader is not one who seeks power for themselves, but one who serves their people. These words would guide Mandela for the rest of his life. When Mandela was just 9 years old, tragedy struck. His father fell ill and passed away. This loss was devastating, but it also marked a turning point in his life. After his father's death, Mandela's mother took him to live with Chief Jongintaba Dumelele, a royal leader of the Thembu people. Chief Jongintaba welcomed Mandela into his home as his own son. It was here, for the first time, that Mandela saw a world beyond his small village. He lived in the chief's palace, observed meetings, and began to understand leadership, tradition, and responsibility. At this point, Mandela started attending a local Methodist school. It was at this school that his teacher, Miss Mingan, gave him the name Nelson, as it was customary for African children to receive English names in school. Although Mandela didn't fully understand why he needed a new name, he accepted it and focused on his studies. He quickly became a diligent student, curious about everything he learned. He developed a love for English literature, geography, and history, particularly the stories of African heroes who fought against colonial rule. Mandela often said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." This belief fueled his desire to study harder and dream bigger. As Mandela grew older, he became increasingly aware of the inequalities around him. South Africa was ruled by apartheid, a system that kept black and white people separated in every aspect of life. Black people were denied the right to vote, own land, or live in the same neighborhoods as white people. Mandela saw the unfairness everywhere. At the age of 16, he participated in a traditional Xhosa ceremony where boys transitioned into manhood. During the ceremony, elders spoke about the responsibilities of adulthood, but they also expressed their sorrow over the state of their people under apartheid. It was then that Mandela felt a deep sense of duty to fight for justice and equality. When Mandela was 19 years old, Chief Jongintaba arranged a marriage for him, but Mandela had other dreams. He wanted to continue his education and make his own choices. So, he made a bold decision. He ran away to Johannesburg, a bustling city full of new experiences. The city was vibrant, but it also presented numerous challenges. Black people worked long hours for little pay and lived in poor conditions, while white people enjoyed wealth and privilege. Mandela worked as a night watchman at a gold mine while continuing his education. He lived in a small, crowded room and often went hungry, but he never gave up. He believed that education would lead him to a brighter future. Eventually, Mandela enrolled at the University of Witwatersrand, where he studied law. As one of the few black students at the university, he faced discrimination, but this only made him more determined. During this time, Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC, a political organization dedicated to fighting for the rights of black South Africans. He attended secret meetings, where he listened to passionate speeches and shared his own ideas for a fairer South Africa. Mandela dreamed of a country where everyone, regardless of race, could live together in peace and equality. He envisioned a place where children could play together without fear, where families could build their futures, and where justice would prevail. This dream became the driving force of Mandela's life, yet the road ahead was filled with challenges, sacrifices, and pain. When he first arrived in Johannesburg, he was just a young man with big dreams. The city was alive with energy, but it was also fraught with obstacles. Black people were treated as second-class citizens and were forced to live in poor neighborhoods known as townships. Mandela rented a small room in Alexandra, one of the most impoverished townships, and worked as a clerk in a law firm. The job was demanding, but it gave him a chance to learn about the legal system and how it was used to oppress black South Africans. He spent his evenings studying by candlelight, determined to finish his law degree. Mandela's hunger for knowledge was unrelenting. He often said, "I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way, but I have discovered the secret, that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb." The ANC had been around for many years, but Mandela and a group of young activists believed it needed a fresh approach. They formed the Youth League, which focused on mobilizing young people to fight against apartheid. Mandela's speeches were powerful and impassioned, addressing justice, equality, and the need for action. His courage and vision inspired many. One of his most famous lines was, "It always seems impossible until it's done." During his work with the ANC, Mandela met a beautiful and intelligent woman named Evelyn Ntoko Mace, a nurse who shared his dream of a better South Africa. They married in 1944 and started a family. Although Mandela was a loving husband and father, his commitment to the struggle often kept him away from home. His personal life was far from easy, as he had to balance his responsibilities as a father with his role as a leader. He once said, There is no passion to be found in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. In 1948, the South African government introduced new apartheid laws that made life even harder for black people. These laws dictated where black people could live, work, and even whom they could marry. Mandela and his colleagues in the ANC knew they had to act. He helped organize peaceful protests, strikes, and marches, believing in nonviolent resistance, inspired by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. Thousands of people joined the movement, risking their jobs, homes, and even their lives. However, the government responded with violence. Protesters were beaten, arrested, and sometimes killed. Mandela himself was arrested multiple times, but he refused to give up. He said, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the triumph over it." Despite the overwhelming challenges, Mandela achieved one of his biggest dreams. He became a lawyer. In 1952, he and his friend Oliver Tambo opened the first black law firm in South Africa, Mandela and Tambo Attorneys. The firm provided free or low-cost legal assistance to black South Africans who were victims of apartheid. Mandela spent his days in courtrooms defending those who had been treated unfairly, and at night, he worked with the ANC to strategize the next steps in their fight for freedom. In 1960, a tragic event changed the course of Mandela's life. During a peaceful protest in the town of Sharpeville, police opened fire on the crowd, killing 69 people and injuring hundreds more. This massacre shocked the world and made Mandela realize that peaceful protests alone might not be enough. The government banned the ANC, forcing Mandela and other leaders to go. Nelson Mandela became a wanted man. He traveled across South Africa in disguise, organizing protests and recruiting people for the struggle. He also traveled abroad to gain international support for the fight against apartheid. During this time, Mandela earned the nickname the Black Pimpernel due to his ability to evade capture. His life, however, was filled with danger. He couldn't see his family and knew that every day could be his last as a free man. In 1962, Mandela was arrested and charged with sabotage, treason, and attempting to overthrow the government. He used his trial as a platform to speak out against apartheid. In his famous speech, he said, "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment and sent to Robben Island, a bleak prison off the coast of Cape Town. Life in prison was harsh. Mandela was forced to do hard labor in a limestone quarry and lived in a tiny cell with no bed, only a thin mat on the floor. The guards were cruel, and he was allowed only one visitor and one letter every 6 months. But Mandela refused to be broken. He used his time in prison to study, reflect, and plan. He even learned Afrikaans to better understand his enemies. He also taught younger prisoners about leadership and the importance of staying hopeful. I am fundamentally an optimist. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun and one's feet moving forward. These words, spoken by Mandela, encapsulate the essence of his spirit. Despite the immense challenges, Mandela became a symbol of hope for millions worldwide. Protests against apartheid grew stronger both inside and outside South Africa. World leaders and organizations called for Mandela's release, but the South African government refused. When Mandela was imprisoned, many believed his fight was over. Yet his imprisonment became the spark that ignited a global movement. Mandela spent 27 long years in prison, most of them on Robben Island. Every day was a test of patience and willpower. The guards tried to humiliate him, but Mandela remained dignified. The work was grueling, but he kept his spirit strong. He once said, "I realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." During those years, Mandela became more than just a prisoner. He became a global symbol of the fight against injustice. People chanted, "Free Nelson Mandela." His name echoed in schools, protests, and was carried on banners. While Mandela was in prison, South Africa became a nation under siege. The apartheid government faced increasing protests, strikes, and international sanctions. Countries refused to trade with South Africa, and famous musicians like Stevie Wonder and Bob Marley dedicated songs to Mandela. Even behind bars, Mandela's leadership was felt. He secretly communicated with other leaders and began negotiations with the apartheid government. Mandela understood something crucial. To truly win, South Africa needed peace, not revenge. On February 11, 1990, the world watched as Nelson Mandela walked out of prison. He was 71 years old, his hair gray, but his spirit unbroken. His first words were, "I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. Today, the time for healing of wounds has come. The time to build is upon us." The streets erupted in celebration. People danced, cried, and cheered. Mandela's release was not just his freedom, it was the first step toward a free South Africa. After his release, Mandela faced a tough question. How could South Africa heal after so much pain? Many wanted revenge, but Mandela preached forgiveness. He met with the very people who had oppressed him and worked with them to build a new nation. He said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." Mandela became the leader of the ANC and worked toward South Africa's first democratic election. His goal was simple but powerful: a South Africa where everyone, black, white, Indian, or colored, had equal rights. In 1994, history was made. For the first time, all South Africans, regardless of race, could vote. People stood in long lines, some for hours, to cast their votes. On April 27, 1994, Nelson Mandela was elected the first black president of South Africa. His inauguration was a moment of pure hope. Leaders from around the world attended. In his speech, Mandela said, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another." South Africa had a new beginning, and Mandela was at the heart of it. As president, Mandela focused on uniting the country. One of his most famous acts was supporting South Africa's rugby team, the Springboks, during the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Rugby, traditionally seen as a white man's sport, became a symbol of unity. Mandela wore the Springbok jersey and stood alongside the team, showing that unity was possible. This act of reconciliation was immortalized in the movie Invictus. The title of the film came from a poem Mandela loved, which ends with the lines, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." After serving one term as president, Mandela stepped down in 1999, proving that true leaders know when to let go of power. He spent his later years advocating for peace, education, and the fight against poverty and HIV/AIDS. Mandela traveled the world, meeting leaders, inspiring youth, and reminding everyone of the power of forgiveness and determination. On December 5, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away at the age of 95. The world mourned the loss of a giant. Millions of people attended his memorial, including presidents, celebrities, and ordinary citizens whose lives he had touched. Mandela's legacy is not just in South Africa, but in every corner of the globe. He taught us that no matter how dark the road, no matter how high the mountain, hope and perseverance can change the world. Nelson Mandela's life proves that greatness is not something you're born with. It's something you achieve through hard work, sacrifice, and unwavering belief in your dreams. His story reminds us never to give up, even in the hardest times. Forgiveness is stronger than hate, and one person can make a difference. Mandela's life is a testament to the power of determination, patience, and forgiveness. He spent 27 years in prison for a cause he believed in, and when he was released, he chose peace over revenge. He showed the world that even in the darkest moments, we can choose the light of hope and love. Kept moving forward, he knew that change wasn't easy, but he believed that small steps could make a big difference. He showed us that we don't have to be perfect, but we must never stop trying in every challenge he faced, whether it was in the streets of South Africa or in the cold cells of prison. Mandela always remembered his dream of a free, equal, and peaceful world, and even though his fight was long, it wasn't just about him. He fought for the future of his children, his grandchildren, and for the generations to come. Mandela said, "I never lose. I either win or learn." This shows us that failure is not the end of the road. Every time we fall, we can rise again. Every mistake is a chance to learn, to grow, and to become stronger. No matter how many times life knocks us down, we can always stand up and keep going. His life teaches us that no matter where we come from or what we face, we all have the power to make a difference. We can be leaders even in the smallest ways. It doesn't matter if we're not famous or powerful. Like Nelson Mandela, every kind word, every act of kindness, every moment, we stand up for what's right. These things matter. Mandela's story is a story for everyone. It shows that no matter how hard life gets, we have the strength to keep moving forward. You have the power to overcome any obstacle. You are stronger than you think. So remember Nelson Mandela. When you feel like giving up, think about the hardships he faced, the struggles he endured, but most importantly, think about how he kept going. He didn't let anything stop him, and neither should you. Your dreams are worth fighting for, and you have everything inside you to achieve them. Mandela's journey wasn't just about changing South Africa, it was about changing the world, and he inspired millions, and his message will continue to inspire for generations to come. So take his story to heart. Never forget that with hope, love, and determination, you can make the world a better place. In Mandela's words, the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. This is where we end the story of Nelson Mandela, but his legacy lives on in all of us. Remember, you have the power to overcome any challenge, no matter how impossible it seems. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you feel inspired, share Mandela's story with others. Together, we can carry forward his message of hope, unity, and freedom.